21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
There is this issue or question, what motivates nascent entrepreneurs to start their business? We hear often that profit is the main driver. Now we have some news. A major research by Stanford and the Princeton scholars covered this question. They addressed 65,000 people in the United States, out of which they identified more than 800 who said, I'm starting right now a business. And they asked them, what drives you? Why do you start a business? And the answer is not maximizing or making money. The answer is two drivers. Number one is to become my own boss, to drive my own life. And the second one is to realize my dream, to leave a mark by offering a product or a service useful to a society.
And that's exactly what an entrepreneur like Steve Jobs said a long time ago. He said, being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me. Going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful, that's what matters to me. And that's really, I think, what we have to say in our book for young generations, because they are tired of all these corporate mantras talking about corporate social responsibility or a big corporation or whatever. But at the end of the day, they don't see the world changing. And so our message in our book also is about don't give up your dream and keep on having big dreams, not small dreams. And it's possible to have that within a business world, within your company if you're an entrepreneur.
My name is Isaac Getz. I'm an author, a speaker, senior advisor, and professor in the ECP Business School. And for about 30 years already, I'm interested in the issues of corporate transformation. And one of them is to create a workplace where employees are motivated. Employees and, by the way, leaders of these companies are motivated to wake up every morning to go to the company because they want, not because they must. And once they are at their company, to do their best. That resulted in the concept of what I called, and Brian Carney, liberated company. And for the last 7-8 years, I collaborate with Laurent, whom you see here on the podcast, on another corporate transformation, which reviews or revises dramatically the way companies relate to what we call the others at their gate, their customers, their suppliers, and the local community.
Hi, my name is Laurent Marbacher. I spent more than 30 years working alongside business leaders as an executive coach, team coach, and as a designer and facilitator of leadership development journeys. And my expertise is to create a truly safe space for deep dialogues where people can pause, they can reflect on the questions that really matter, and dare to express their best selves. So I truly believe that you have a soul, and that your soul can talk to you and can guide you, as a song of Sting says, let your soul guide you. And I think that this title of this song captures something that many leaders are yearning for today. So listening to your soul, attending to the calling of your heart, developing a genuine discernment are no longer luxuries, and they're essential leadership capabilities, especially for entrepreneurs. So this connection with the dream, this connection with your heart, this is really what I love to work with the people I coach. Just after my business school, I went to Chile and I started the first microcredit project with the help of Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel Prize. So that was in the beginning of the 90s. You know, from this experience, what I'm truly believing is that there is no contradiction between a social commitment and making sound business. And so that's also really what is important in our book, in our research, is that doing good and doing well are not in opposition. They can, in fact, I think, reinforce each other, provided that we have them in the right order. Caring, as we say, caring unconditionally comes first, and then you regard profit as a constraint, of course, but as a consequence. So to us, and that's really what we try to convey in our book, is this belief, but also this observation that it works. It doesn't have to be two separate worlds. You know, the world where you do charities or you do philanthropy or whatever, and the terrible, tough business world, well, you know, you have to seek profit, and nothing else. We think that, and we observe that both are possible, and actually caring unconditionally increases your chances of being profitable and building lasting businesses.
There are two beliefs that we debunk in a way in our book. The one belief is very widespread, is that if you want to exercise your social responsibility, care about the society, the environment, you have to enroll in one of these, what we call balancing approaches. The balancing is between doing good and doing well, between trying to contribute to society and the environment, all the while continuing the pursuit of profits. So the oldest one is the corporate philanthropy, corporate foundations, this kind of things that was a little bit put in fashion, and I'll talk in a moment, by effective altruism recent fashion. Then there was a corporate social responsibility, which is corporate philanthropy is done totally outside of the company, right? This corporate social responsibility done on the margins of the company. There are some activities and some processes that may be involved in that, but not much. Then you have several approaches that became more popular recently, following the triple bottom line, the 3P, right? People, planet, profit trend in 90s. But what is popular today are B Corps. They're trying to pursue these three goals at the same time through the certification, and benefit corporations that state in their legal statutes that they're pursuing all three goals. Now, with Laurent, we show that this is both in purely pragmatic ways unachievable, as you can't chase three rabbits at the same time. Usually, if you finish with none, or you focus on the one and you catch it. And the results, research shows that corporations that are enrolled in the balancing approaches still are chasing profits. Then there is a linear programming, mathematical discipline that also shows that you cannot optimize or maximize two independent variables at the same time. You can't minimize the damage to the environment and maximize the profits. They go in the opposite direction. You have to choose. The one is the goal, the other is a constraint. So this is the first myth, the myth of balancing approaches. And there is a lot of people that will say you, yes, you can do good and at the same time do well. This is a myth. It doesn't work. The second myth is a little bit recent, a little bit more marginal, is the one of effective altruism, to which a lot of Silicon Valley successful entrepreneurs subscribed. The Netscape founder, all other people, talents, many other people, they gave tens and sometimes hundreds of millions to say we're giving to the basically philanthropy based on data. So they believe in data. We debunk this approach and we show that people contribute disregarding the data totally, and they contribute for other reasons which are parochial status, social status, and so on. So that doesn't work either. And our solution to it is to chase one rabbit. But this rabbit is the pursuing social value or the common good. And what is amazing in our research is that we have shown that the companies that decided to focus and transform themselves in order to pursue this common good are making more profits than their competitors that are chasing profits. So this is something like a paradox that we have explained a little bit later.
We've been with Isaac on 3 continents over a period of 5 years, visiting and studying many companies, small companies, startups, large corporations, trying to find what companies have exceptional relationships with the people at the gate of the company. Isaac's work and my experience have been much focused inside the companies. What happens if you treat your employees like adults, free and responsible, accountable adults. But then we said, okay, but what happens at the gate of the company? And so we've been in several continents. We've discussed with the CEOs, the founders of these companies, these exceptional companies. And at the end of the day, Isaac and I thought that, hey, but it's just like as if we have discovered, like Darwin on the beagle, we have discovered a kind of new species, a new species of companies that operate on a totally different, let's say, operating system, meaning a philosophy that is based on a bet, on this bet that carry unconditionally for the members of the ecosystem, like customers, like suppliers, like local communities, and doing this unconditionally, this will lead to greater results, greater profits, etc. And doing that through your core businesses. So this research for us, it was kind of a surprise. We say that the first surprise is that these companies exist, because they live on a framework that's so different from what has been taught over years in business schools, where chasing profit, maximizing profit, or even just maximizing each and every transaction with the people around you is kind of the basis of a sane management, let's say.
I want to add one interesting insight from this same study that I mentioned by Stanford and Princeton researcher about profit. It always appears a paradox, right? How you can bet on common good and expect as the result to have greater profits. And maybe we'll talk a little bit later on what do we mean by transforming the way you carry business, because you have to redesign all the business processes that basically pursue profit in order for them to maximize the common good. But let me go back to this research. It's very interesting. They're not against profit. No one of these businesses, again, those are not social enterprises, right? Some of them are listed on the stock exchange, 100%. And all of them are capitalistic firms. They're not against profits. Simply, they consider profits as a consequence. So that's betting, right? So if we transform a company to do for the common good, we bet that the consequence of that will be greater profits. And it's a very important point, and a constraint. We are for profit, but we need that level of profitability and not more. Why we need that level? Because we need to pay our debts, we need to reinvest, and basically to sustain our company. Now I go back to our entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are worse in that sense. They are afraid of making too much profit. That's what the research shows, because they know that making too much profit means taking too much risk for your company, which may jeopardize this sustainability. Again, remember, they created a company to become free, to be their own boss, and to live their dream. They sometimes quit executive jobs. They sometimes quit very good positions in corporate world. They don't want after 3 years to go bankrupt. And they know that if they're making too much money, they're taking inconsiderate risks. So they slow down. They take pedal off the gas. They say, whoa, 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 whoa. 10% or 15% EBITDA, too much risk. Let's not open one more plant, one more shop, one more this and that. Let's not go and open one more country. Let's put our constraint. There is some threshold that we need to continue, but we focus on something for which we build our company, how to do the best possible product, how to provide the best possible service, how to create the work environment, and not making maximum profit. So again, I repeat, entrepreneurs in that sense are much more conservative than the corporate world in general in terms of profit making.
Our understanding of the current state of capitalism is that capitalism is under siege. And so we see a lot of old systems that are dying. And we see emergent systems that are not mainstream right now, but that are going to be mainstream in the coming years or decades. And we believe that this philosophy of the caring company is one of these emerging trends. So of course, we don't have thousands of examples in our book, but we have very sound one and also very old ones. Some of them, let's talk about Handelsbanken. This is a large, one of the 3-4 largest retail bank in Sweden, but also in the UK, present in the UK. And so this bank has introduced this kind of philosophy 50 years ago. And year after year, they are having better results than their competitors through this philosophy of caring for the clients, for the customers, with a total freedom for branches to make the decision at this level. So we have examples of very large companies that are doing this. We have a Japanese pharmaceutical that has been doing that for more than 15 years. And with the results they have, this is not a matter of, talking to the shareholders and saying, hey, we're going to have a new mission statement and and blah, blah, blah. But it's a matter of doing things, having them implemented. And then after 15 years, they came back to the shareholders saying, oh, yes, maybe we have to change the statutes of the company so that it reflects more or better what the company shift has done. So our understanding is that these companies, these leaders, many leaders, in fact, we have this feedback from many leaders that they say, oh, but what you've written in the book, this is exactly my way of thinking and my way of leading my company. But I cannot talk about that to anybody. I feel like I'm alone because it's so different from the kind of normal way of managing or of leading a company. But they kind of say, oh, but this is what I do. This is what I want to do. And they also kind of feel that, I don't know how to say that, but this is the way, this is the way, particularly in times of crisis, because the world is so unpredictable. What we've also looked for during this period of time and with this research is that in times of crisis, particularly in COVID crisis, we've seen that these companies not only survive or are solid enough to go through the crisis, but we've seen that they have a kind of way of adapting and inclusively, like anti-fragile companies, they can change and transform themselves into something else that brings them even more, relevance for the customers, relevance for the market. So we think that the more crisis we're gonna live, the more the leaders will understand that this way of building this kind of goodwill, around them into their ecosystems will make the difference.
Laurent mentioned that the capitalism under the siege, and if you open the brackets, what capitalism is attacked for is that the capitalism is very good in privatizing profits and socializing damages to the society, to the environment. And these damages are extremely important. So the question is, if you are a leader in business, do you think that your social and environmental responsibility is, quoting Milton Friedman, right, maximizing profits, then paying taxes and contributing when the margins are good, contributing to some social and environmental causes? Or what we believe, businesses are the most powerful actor, not the government, but not some non-governmental organizations, but businesses are the most powerful actors to meet these social and environmental challenges. But you're not going to meet them if you organize your company and all the business process in the company to maximize profits. They have to be reviewed. So the definition of the caring company in our book with Laurent is it's a company that is providing an unconditional care to the members of its business ecosystem, which are customers, suppliers, and the local community, and it's doing it through its core business processes. It's very important. And as a consequence, it enjoys a higher profits than its competitors. So now if we go to the transformation itself, it means transforming the way we are running our processes with regard to customers, suppliers, and local community. One of the key beliefs that Laurent mentioned is they are self-interested transactions. That's how it works. We are talking the caring companies, providing an unconditional care. So it's not self-interested transaction based, but care-based. Now, in order to lead such a transformation in a company, obviously the leader has to fundamentally believe in that. So the first step of transformation is the transformation of the leader herself or himself, because most of it is normal, legitimate. Right? Laurent mentioned business schools, or you are in the, I don't know, you are in the entrepreneur community. It's all about making money and running transactions, right? So you have to question these beliefs. Once you did it, and we met some people that were already kept these beliefs, but at the private level, right? So it's like they live, many people and business leaders, they live two lives. There's a private life, they have certain values, and then there's a professional life. Once they go through the gate of the company, it's about EBITDA, profit maximization, closing deals, closing transactions. So once you change that, I give you two little stories that may happen. Suddenly, some events that you would consider, okay, that's business, that's part of the business, you can't accept it anymore. One is a Silicon Valley company that is not providing software or some technology, but providing fruits. They're called the fruit guys. They provide fruit baskets to the geeks, Tesla, Adobe, Google, everyone is their customer. And this is something that they began, it's a startup, right? But then they were maybe 40 or 50 persons. And there's one guy who delivered, there's a one client that called and said, your delivery man showed me a finger. I will show a finger. Yes, you understand, showed me a finger. And so Chris, his name is Chris, he talks to him, said, Louis, I've heard some strange thing that happened to a customer. And the guy says, yes, he lacked me respect. My father taught me that someone lacks me respect. I have to show them something and so on. So that would maybe pass in a normal company, something, okay, we have maybe to train the guy more. Maybe we have to talk more about customer value. But for Chris, that was a dramatic moment. And he said, there is something fundamental. I want to have a company that has this unconditional care for our customers. I have this, but our processes are not that. The process is to deliver, and efficiently, not to spend too much time to deliver, go to deliver to the next guy. And so these people are not focused on the customer as a human being. And this started his whole revamping of how we deal with the customers, how we deal with the suppliers. They talk that suppliers, they don't want 1-2 meetings with suppliers, they want a marriage with suppliers. And they do everything, they visit every supplier every month to spend with them several hours and try to understand their needs and how they can contribute to the supplier success. And you can imagine that these suppliers do everything to contribute to the success of the company. Another story, very quick, they are now not in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of nice valleys in California. Sonoma Valley is a nice valley. So, but they're not growing wine. They're producing medicinal teas, like herbal teas that are very good for, stomach or headache or something. Anyway, they're buying a lot of herbs in like 35 countries. And the co-founder, Drake, they had this dream and said, let's go to a nice business trip and a little bit of business and pleasure. So we visit all these beautiful countries where we buy these herbs. Let's go to Guatemala. And so they go to Guatemala, to the fields where they buy lemongrass, to visit the producer of lemongrass. And his wife, excited, Rosemary, and say, what a wonderful view, what a wonderful smell. And he looks and he said, Rosemary, it's not as beautiful as you tell. Look at the kids 6-7 years old that work on these plantations that use a lot of pesticides in addition. And he came back, and again, this hurt his values, right? He was very much socially oriented when he was a student, young person. Now he runs a business. And he said, I can't continue run a business that way. It's impossible. He wanted to quit, in fact. But then he said, can we change that? And let's change one village at a time. And they have 160 villages in 35 countries, from where they buy, from India and China to Central America. How can we help these producers to earn better income so that they don't have to employ kids and that the kids can go to school? What can we do? And they started to work. This is a total transformation of the supply chain. And the supply chain manager is not working with the intermediaries and so on to buy the lowest cost, right? The ingredient. They work directly with these producers, studying them. And for example, one of the solutions is to accompany them to transit to the organic herbs so that they can sell these organic herbs 2 or 3 times more, earn much more income. So they provide all the engineering and agronomical and other support for free for this producers, so that they can, and they then encourage them. It's interesting, once they help them not to sell everything to this company that's called traditional medicinals, but to diversify their clients so that they become independent and so on. You have the key process, which is a delivery process and customer contact process in the first company, the Food Guys. It was totally refurbished, totally redesigned, so that if you need to spend 6 hours to deliver something that the customer calls that he has bananas that don't look good, so they will spend 6 hours return trip to replace 1 case of bananas, no questions asked. So this is the delivery and customer service. And on the other hand, you have this total revamping of the supply chain, which means working directly with producers and making these producers successful economically and socially, because it's about also the well-being of people and their families in these villages. And these companies are extremely successful, and they even have investors. Imagine the second traditional medicines, they have even private equity that invested in them. All the while, the owner said, we will never sell the company. So much faith is in the private equity of this company that the fund invested in it.
Let's take an example. We have this example again, this Swedish bank, Handelsbanken. When they had the crisis, they have operations in the UK. And when they had this 2008 crisis, the financial crisis, instead of accepting bailouts and these kind of things, this bank had only 1% of the market share in the UK. But during that period, they gave 50% of the loans of the total UK market for SMEs, helping them to recover from the crisis. So these kind of companies have a kind of very social role beyond just their customers. They benefit to society, and inclusively the CEO of that company told us we have to be an asset to society, not a burden to society. And to us, this is really what we see in these companies, that of course they care for their communities, their local communities. And we have also some examples of a company, for instance, a French company. So this company bought a company that was about to be bought by a larger corporation. And because of that, the CEO of LSDH, that's the name of the company, he believed that there might be a danger for the employees of this company, layoffs and this kind of thing, or a loss of power of decision, a local power of decision. So over a weekend, he decided to make an offer and to buy this salad company that was not really, in his strategic frame, let's say. After he bought the company, that made economic sense because he saw that he could put the salads that of the company he bought up in the trucks because he couldn't use the whole truck because his own products were too heavy for the trucks. So delivering the salads to the retail companies would be done nearly at zero cost. But this came afterwards. The first and the reason for making this purchase of this company was caring for the local community, and profit came afterwards. But he trusted that if he did that, something would happen afterwards without him, seeking profit, making an Excel spreadsheet and proving to himself or to bankers or to whoever that this would make business sense.
The two examples that Laurent gave about this bank, that instead of being Handelsbanken bailed out like all the other banks were nationalized in Sweden, instead of being bailed out during the financial crisis, right? They, instead of that, helped the economy of Sweden and of UK to avoid major wave of bankruptcies among the small and medium enterprises. In case of this LSDH, which is they're producing juice and milks, private label, instead of letting this small company that produces salads to be incorporated in large corporation and go through what is called synergies, which means usually that some of the redundant people will be put on unemployment. In both of these cases, this is the main criticism that we hear against the capitalistic firms, that they privatize profits and they socialize damages. In one case, bailed out by taxpayers, all the banks. In another case, you lay down people and they go to the unemployment, right, which is paid by the society. These companies do the opposite. They do the opposite. They say, we have the power to help small, medium businesses, and we will do that as a bank. And the other company said, it's in my area. I have the same clients that they have. Okay, I'm not growing salads, but I don't want that people will be laid down in our local community. I buy this company and will find a way at some point how to make this whole thing profitable. So the attitude is totally different. It's not about calculating how much profit I will make. What are the transactions? Is how can I care unconditionally about the local community, because that's what we mentioned, but also about the customers and about the suppliers.
So you can visit our website, thecaringcompanybook.com. And there you will find quiz to see to what extent you believe and to what extent you act in terms of doing good while doing well.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskorik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.